This episode of the Blindside Podcast contains language that might be offensive to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. The Blindside Podcast is not associated or affiliated with my current employers and is voluntarily recorded and produced on my own time. This is Blind Meadow Gamer, and you're listening to another episode of the Blindside Podcast. Available on Spotify and all podcasting platforms with the exclusion of Apple and Stitcher. Be sure to follow so you will not miss a single episode. Hello everyone, Blind Meadow Gamer along with Kaira Supersayan here for another episode of the Blindside Podcast. Kaira, would you like to tell everybody what tonight's title is?
Oh, shit. I forgot the
No,
title.
it's not all shit. It's not all shit.
You better do it, Blind, because Kaira
going...
Supersayan has the memory of a goldfish.
All right. Tonight, as promised in the last episode, we're venturing into hell. We're going to hell, and we're going to tell you our stories about surviving our own personal adventures into hell. So,
yes.
Kaira, ladies first. You want to go first?
Okay, but first, don't we have somebody who we need to make this video in honor of? Because whose idea was this? It wasn't ours.
No, it was not. Serving of Cats. This was originally her idea, and she wanted to do this, but unfortunately, she passed away last month, so she could not be here to join us. This was going to be the three of us doing our own things, but unfortunately that didn't come to be because she tragically passed away. So it's going to be me and Kaira tonight.
Yep. And okay, so now without further ado, my personal hell involves trade school. Trade school sounds fun, except it's not when you're a person with a disability like I am. This trade school was made for people with disabilities, and it had rules that made you feel like you were in a workplace and a prison 24/7.
Oh wow.
Yes, it was brutal, and they've loosened up a little bit, restructured it a little bit since I left, or rather got expelled.
Mm-hmm.
And it's better, but it's not better, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I only know this because I used to date somebody who tried, I think, twice, maybe 3 times at trade school before they finally just agreed to leave on behalf of their mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Health, not help. Sorry.
Right.
And as for me, my problem was I wasn't used to the rule structure. That was what got me out the first 2 times. The third time, I was manic beyond belief. And they didn't think I was manic, which was the problem. And so I just blew up in a fit of manic rage in a therapy session. They're like, that's it. You're done. You're never going to come back here. You just can't fit into this world.
And, oh, wow. You would think with them being specifically for, for disabilities, they would be understanding about this stuff. You would think they would actually know what they're doing.
That you would think. One would think. But the problem is they didn't know I was bipolar. I didn't know I was bipolar. They didn't know how to treat me. So when I was lashing out and having problems, they treated me like a child. And it didn't work. And I made friends and enemies at that place. A lot of people I still keep in touch with from that place. Other people, I'm the bane of their existence, and I've had to block on social media. But guess what? That's okay. That's okay though, because trade school is not for everybody. Being disabled doesn't mean you have to go into trade school. But here's the thing.
Does not.
But here's the thing. Here's how fucked up this place is.
All right.
If you break the rules, you lose your privileges, which means you can't
Mhm.
go out and do grocery
So
shopping, which is
for
fine
for so for
because
example, if there was a rule that said quiet time at 8 p.m., if you broke that rule, you lost the privilege to go out off campus.
depends on how severe depends on how severe the breaking of the rule was, but essentially yes.
Oh God.
There are tiers. So like okay, so like tier 1.
Mm-hmm.
Uh tier 1. You get an offense on tier 1, you're
Mm-hmm.
fine. You're given a
Mm-hmm.
warning. Tier 2,
Mm-hmm.
you lose your privileges. Tier
Mm-hmm.
3,
They
you
give you the
you
boot.
oh, and then there's tier 4,
Oh God.
which means that you're blacklisted.
Oh God. So they can blacklist you from ever coming back?
That's what they did to me on the psychiatric one.
Oh wow. I did not know they could do that. That's nuts.
They can blacklist you. Like
That's
if
cool.
you're like we had one kid in there who picked fights and broke the rules. He broke
Mm-hmm.
4 rules in 1 week, and they're like, "Yeah, you're done.
Mm-mm.
You're never allowed back."
Yeah, that's fucked up. I mean,
And then, of course, here's another example. We had a kid who we think was autistic. Nobody
mm-hmm.
knows for sure
Right.
he had what I call classic autism,
Mm-hmm.
which is severe autism.
Mm-hmm.
And one day we caught him with his hand down his pants. He
Oh
didn't know he was
no!
he didn't know he was doing it, but and he was
Oh
a
no!
great student. He was what they called an honors student.
Mm-hmm.
He lost his honor privileges because he had his hand down his pants, and he
Oh
didn't know he was doing it.
wow!
That's how
Wow!
messed up the society is.
That's nuts. I mean, you would think if he didn't know what was going on, you know.
They didn't
Wow.
want to punish. They didn't want to punish him. They didn't have a choice though. They're like, we don't. I talked to a security guard about it
Mm-hmm.
as a
Mm-hmm.
witness, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
and they pulled me aside and they said I shouldn't be telling you this, but he committed a tier 2. So we have tier 2 doesn't always mean expulsion. It
Mm-hmm.
it can sometimes lead to
Mm-hmm.
suspension,
Mm-hmm.
but tier 2 doesn't always mean you're out. Is the thing. And
Right.
he's
It
like,
would depend
and
on what it is.
they're like, he committed a tier 2.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to lose his honors privileges because of what he did, and I don't want to punish him, but I have to because that's the way the rules are written.
Now, for those who don't know, or who are going to be watching and listening,
Mm-hmm.
can you explain what honor privileges were or
honor
are?
privileges Honor privileges are for the kid, are for the students, this because we're technically all students being trained to go into the workforce.
Right.
The honor system is where you not only get your privileges, but you also get more privileges
Uh huh.
based on good behavior. You can't
Uh huh.
break a single rule if you want honors.
Oh wow. Yeah, that gives
Yeah.
you incentive. That gives you incentive. So, you had to go through that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so you explained, the first few times you got this one. What is it like living in that type of a facility? With your condition, with your situation.
For
Um.
for me, it was very unique from what other students go through. I have
Mm-hmm.
epilepsy,
Uh.
and because it was so unstable and required medicine to
Mm-hmm.
treat it, they made
Right.
me stay in the medical ward
Uh
where
huh.
the nurses could watch me. I was isolated. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't have a roommate because of my food allergy. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't I couldn't stay in a normal dormitory with the rest of the girls. So the girls, I couldn't, if I got mad, I couldn't have an outburst on my way to my room, which I learned very quickly. Not, which you would think I would outgrow that after learning not to do that in that environment. I didn't. It came back,
Mm-hmm.
but that's beyond the point. Um,
Yeah.
I frequently lost privileges.
Mm-hmm.
I would have psychiatrists come to my door and talk to
Mm-hmm.
me on a regular basis and
Mm-hmm.
tell me what I and explain my behavior to me and warned me of the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
But because I was undiagnosed bipolar, nothing they did worked.
Mm-hmm. So they
They,
so they didn't know about your disorder. If they would have known, do you think it would have went a little different?
I think if I had been diagnosed with bipolar to my prior to my entrance into the trade school, which shall remain unnamed for security purposes.
Right.
Um, I think if I had been diagnosed prior to rather than afterwards, it would have worked out better. But I would have eventually
Mm-hmm.
either left of my own free will or been expelled anyway.
Mm-hmm. Now, real quickly, can you explain to the listeners and viewers what it was like? The privilege, like you mentioned a while back, a privilege pass. What
Mm-hmm.
that entailed and what that meant.
Okay, so having privileges meant that you could commit a tier one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no way, I'm getting the tier system mixed up. Meaning you could commit a minor offense, up to 3 to 4 times without issue. If you committed it
Mm-hmm.
more than 3 to 4 times,
There would be
you'd
a
lose your
problem.
privilege. You'd lose your privileges. That meant
Mm-hmm.
you could only walk the grounds of the campus, which was a very small campus in a very rural part of my state.
Oh wow.
Yes. And if you lost your privileges, you could only be on the grounds of the campus. You
Mm-hmm.
couldn't stay up past a certain time. Well, actually that
Mm-hmm.
was an honors rule anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Honors students got to stay up as late as they wanted as long as they showed up to class.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Um
I bet there was work. I bet people would do workarounds for that.
yeah,
If
they
you know what
were.
I mean.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Um and basically you basically basically you were confined to the campus. You couldn't go on trips, you couldn't go
Mm-hmm.
on social trips, you couldn't go out and buy groceries. You would just go stir crazy in that environment if you lost privileges.
So basically, like if they had a thing where you could go out to your favorite store, let's just take GameStop as an example, and you
Mm-hmm.
lost privileges, you didn't get to go.
Exactly.
Oh God.
If
So they
you want to,
wouldn't even. So they would see. You would think that they would at least let you go buy groceries, at least.
they wouldn't though. You had to have
See,
privileges just to go out to go to the grocery store, which I
see,
think is effed up.
yeah, it is. It's yeah. It's that's messed up. You should have. That's a need. That's covering a need. Food is a
And
need. It's not a want.
well, they provided food to us. This was like living in college. The meal plan. Your food was included in your stay. You weren't going to
Uh,
starve if you lost privileges. You got best
right.
heck. You got a nice home cooked meal with dessert and the option of
Oh, oh,
seconds
oh, man.
every single day up to a certain time of the day.
Nice.
They had din-
Nice.
they had lunch. They had breakfast from 6 to 8
Mm-hmm.
state. Lunch from 11 to I think 11 to noon, maybe 11 to 1, and
Mm-hmm.
dinner from 4 to 6. But if you
Oh,
didn't
heck,
show up,
yeah.
but if you didn't show up to eat during one of those times, you were on your own.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's the way, in a lot of those facilities. Um, I remember I was in a place called the McDowell Center,
Hmm.
um, which is OVR's training deal. And
Oh,
it was a good.
This was an OVR training facility.
Right, but the point is that it was kind of the same way. If you didn't show up to eat during the times that it was scheduled, you had to have your own food.
And that's the problem with the taking away the grocery thing. If you didn't show up
Right.
to eat, if you showed up late for breakfast, you had to rely on seconds during the last 10 minutes of breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
or you'd have to eat on your own. I started
Mm-hmm.
keeping up, but thankfully though they let you go home on the weekends regardless of your privilege status or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so because you had and so I started learning. Okay, I need to keep a stash of food from home in my room in case I forget to show in case I oversleep and don't show up for breakfast.
Oh yeah.
But here's the other thing. Here's the other thing though. Here's the other thing though. You also had your privilege pass was not just based off of one system. There were there were blue, green, and pink. I think pink was the last color. I don't remember the last color. There were at least 3 different colors. There were 4 tiers for your privilege pass. I wanted a green one so bad, but I was a blue. And every time I tried to, but the problem was my behavior didn't meet the standards for the blue. And with green, you could only go out when the facility said you can go out. But with green, no wait, blue, whatever color it was. But with the other color, the one that I was vying for, you could walk somewhere on your own without having to be escorted by one of the facility workers, for the trade school. And I wanted the ability to walk into town on my own free will with privileges, so I would at least wouldn't go stir crazy. But the problem was, I never got that privilege. Because of my behavior, and then I'd screw up somehow, and I'd lose my privileges, and then the cycle would repeat itself. And they're like, and they told me, my caseworker, yeah, you had caseworkers in this facility, told me, you can earn this, but you're gonna have to work hard for it. And I tried, and I tried, and I tried so fucking hard. Every time something would get in the way and screw me up somehow.
Yeah. That sucks. That sucks you had to go through that. So, did you learn any lessons from your venture into your own personal health?
I got into therapy for one thing. Productive therapy. I got into a relationship with a therapist I maintained for several years until another personal trauma hit me very hard that we ultimately could not agree on. I learned things about myself that I didn't know. I got diagnosed with something that I didn't know I had, which was good. I learned so much while I was there, but some days I feel like I learned so little. But guess what? I also learned, you know what? I don't need to live in a. Here's the problem with this place. You can't live in an environment where you have to act and dress like you're in a workforce environment 24/7, 5 days a week. It's just not humanely possible. It's fucking impossible.
So, in other words, you wanted to be in a place where you could possibly get those services, but you didn't have to adhere to the strict dress code.
It wasn't dress code. Here's the thing: you couldn't swear, you couldn't horseplay, you had to dress a certain way. It was a lot more to it than just you had to dress a certain way. It was so much. The dress code was just the surface of it.
Oh wow! I know I'm not going to name drop, but I know of someone who would have broke the swear rule immediately.
I believe you're talking about yourself right now.
No, actually. No.
I'm kidding, you goof.
No, not me. I know of someone who would have broke it the first day they entered the facility. They would have entered it and said, "This is bleeped up," and they would have been out.
You didn't have to say bleeped. You do realize I just dropped the F-bomb 5 seconds ago, right?
I know. Don't worry. Yeah, they would have said, "This is fucked up," and they would have said, "Fuck this, this ain't for me, I'm out." So, okay. So, would you like to move on to my venture into hell?
Yes, please.
All right. My venture into hell began in 2001 For those of you, I'll give a quick synopsis. I went to a school for the blind and visually impaired for the majority of my educational career. Now, my senior year, I was stubborn. I wanted to go to public school. I wanted to see what's it like, what's the experience like. So, my junior year, I shadowed a student, and I loved it. I was like, oh, this is awesome. The kids are cool, everything's cool, a lot more laid back. I want to come here. I want to make the jump and defect. And I'm just like, yeah, I got to do this. So after me and my mother would fight over it, yeah, we fought over this because this was a big, big deal. Because I was
Mhm.
going from a school with 80 kids tops, okay,
Mhm.
K through 12, 80 kids tops,
Mhm.
to a school with over almost 1,000 kids
Mhm.
in 4 grades. So eventually, she said, "Okay, son, we're gonna do this. You're gonna get what you want." And in order to get there, I had to kind of jump through some hoops. And a certain letter was written that the VI teacher was not too thrilled about
Mhm.
because my mom got the idea to write this letter to the governor at the time. Because in the meeting prior to me going into my junior year, they she was told that I wanted to go to public school, and the VI teacher was like, "Well, we can't meet your needs like they can where you're at now. I can't meet." She's like, "Well, I can't meet your needs," and mom was furious, as any mother would be.
Of
I'm
course.
sure your mother would have been enraged if they said that to you, to your if the roles were reversed. Um,
She would have fought tooth and nail for me if
right,
that had happened.
right. So after all that went down, mom wrote this letter and melted off, blah 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 blah. So we get to the meeting. The meeting that we went through just to get me into public school took 5 fucking hours. Okay?
Oh God.
Yeah, yeah. They had to go and discuss the letter. They had to make a new IEP. My thought was I could go in there and take electives and get into college and
That
really
that
do some good
time
shit.
time out for 1 second. Can you explain to the viewers who don't know what an IEP is? You and I know
Yes,
what that is.
IEPs are individual education plans. They're
Very good.
mainly used for people with disabilities to give them a plan for their educational goals and whatnot for each school year. So,
Yes.
again, I went from a school for the blind to a public school, so you would think just transfer the goals. No, they had to make a new individual education plan, IEP, from scratch
Mhm.
because, again, new facility, new environment. Socially, I will admit this, and I'll be the first to admit it. I was not prepared for that on a social level because, again, I didn't have the social experience of going into a public school with sighted or typically developing students. I
Right.
was used to students who are blind or had other disabilities.
Right.
So
Now, sorry. Go ahead.
no, you would think, and I thought at the time, okay, they're going to give me free reign. I'll be able to talk to whoever I want and really find out more about me, spread my wings. That didn't happen. Uh, they basically, when I started in August of that year, I found out really quick that my social boundaries were set very quickly for me by this VI teacher, who will remain nameless for security purposes.
Exactly.
Um, to synopsize, I couldn't. If the student had a disability like Kaira,
Mhm.
it was fine. I could talk to them, get their number, hang out, blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
But if they did not have a disability, there were certain criteria that had to be met. Was the student Asian? Yeah, this is no joke.
Oh God.
Yeah, were they Asian? Were they foreign? Were they an underclassman, a freshman? Because I was, 18 at the time.
Yeah.
I was of age, so I get again from that looking back from that perspective. They thought they were looking out for me, which I get that because going from a place with 60 80 to 60 to 80 kids tops, so over 1,000. There's a lot of pitfalls and traps one could get involved in, and I get they didn't want me to become entrapped. I
Yeah.
get it from that perspective. But here again, where the hell kind of comes in for me. Academically, it rocked. It totally rocked.
Oh, I'll bet.
The teachers were great for the most part. A lot of the students were good to me. But what those students didn't know was I couldn't just talk to them outside of school. I had to get the certain teacher's approval.
That's fucked up. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. So there was one girl again who will remain nameless. I blew up her phone.
Mhm.
I called it 9 times in one day. My thought was, okay, she might be busy. Try back, try back, try back. I didn't leave a message.
Mhm.
If I would have just left one message and said, hey, so and so, call me back, blah, blah, blah.
But you and I don't exactly have the proper social skills, and I don't leave messages unless it's important, so I can understand that.
Right, right. My thought was just keep trying, and eventually I'll get what I want.
That's never the right thing to do, listeners,
So,
by the way.
yeah, I learned this lesson in a very hard way. So I thought, okay, um, so eventually she got back, but my mother answered, and I don't know what was said, but it really pissed this person off. This person, who was an Asian female, I will
Mhm.
divulge that. She was Asian and she was female. I liked the Asian
Mhm.
ladies back then, and they're still pretty. But anyway, hey, you can't go wrong with what you like now.
I know. Relax. You're talking to a borderline
Hey,
pansexual person.
hey, but um, so I thought, okay, maybe I can get in touch with her and we can work this out. Do a face to
Mhm.
face mediation. Didn't work.
Nope.
So another day goes by. I'm thinking, well, what the hell? What the fuck here? I want to get this settled and move on. So I get with this certain teacher, which I would get
Mhm.
with this individual every day, fifth hour. We would have hours where I went to my senior year at high school, not periods. We would have first through fifth hour
I
because
remember that. Yeah.
it was structured more like a college environment type deal. So fifth hour, I would always go with this teacher so she could work with me on whatever I needed work on. Well, apparently this particular day, she thought that I needed a lesson in or a lecture in harassment.
Uh
Because the
oh.
minute I got in that door and I sat down, I got blasted. Your boy
And
got
that's
blasted. I
and
mean,
that's
it
not
was like
appropriate for a teacher to do that.
I couldn't even. I was the dude. I'll put it like this, y'all. Your boy Blind Metal Gamer, you know me as a pretty tough dude and pretty thick skinned. But back then, oh no, I broke down on that one because
You cried, didn't you?
I wasn't prepared for it. In my mind, I wasn't prepared for this because it wasn't my fault. Yeah, I
Yeah.
may have fucked up and blown up the phone. I'll admit this. I fucked up and I blew up this person's phone. But I was
Mhm.
not responsible for the language and verbiage that was used to offend her.
Did you? Does this mean that this teacher cussed at you?
No, she just basically threatened me that I couldn't speak to this person anymore. And
I
if I
see.
did speak to this person, the assistant principal would have gotten involved. One of them, there was two. You
Yeah,
probably
there's.
There was yeah, it was weird. There was like three. They had your principal and then two assistants.
I remember that actually. I saw one of them go out on retirement that the year
Mm-hmm.
I think my sophomore year,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then a new one oh shit,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um.
and then a new one come in my freshman year. Sorry about that, y'all. Kyra had technical difficulties.
Oh shit. So anyway, so they basically threatened me that this assistant principal would have gotten involved, and I would have gotten a D hall. Which, for those of you who don't know, a D hall in public school was a lot different than at the school for the blind. At the school for the blind, you would be given, okay, school would let out at KSB at 2:30. So two thirty
Uh-huh.
to 3:30. If you fucked up and you were on D hall, you had to stay from 2:30 to 3:30 and do an assignment. You would be given a specific assignment and you had to complete that assignment. At the public school, it was not like that. You just had to sit in a room, and supposedly, from what I heard, I never experienced D hall. Thank God.
Yeah.
You had to be quiet. You just had to sit and shut up.
I
From
remember that. I got D Hall in middle school, and it
mm-hmm.
was brute. I had extended D Hall. I had what we called
Oh,
extended detention,
oh
which
fuck.
is different from D Hall,
Oh
from standard
God.
D Hall. That's the after school one, y'all. I sat
Mm-hmm.
there for 2 hours, and I kept. I wanted to cry, but they wouldn't even let me cry.
Mm-hmm.
they said you make a no. They said you cry in here. We're calling your mom and you are going to stay longer. They
See,
legit said that to me in extended detention.
now that ain't right. From a mental health perspective, that's not the way to do it.
But that's what they did though. That's how our public school system worked back then. They don't
Yeah,
do
back
that
then.
anymore now,
No, they
but
don't.
they did.
I actually learned through some advocacy. Well, my mother again did all the talking for some odd reason. I
Yep.
guess she wanted to do that. But I learned like they got two VI teachers now, which is great. They have better programs, more social opportunities for the kids, which is amazing.
Mhm.
Which again, looking back. So anyway, the girl calls back to the house, right?
Right.
And I get pick up the phone. Hello? And I
I'm here. Oh, sorry.
basically
You're
she basically was in a rage and was like I am offended at what your mom said to me. I am offended. I'm like, okay. Basically, she just said we couldn't be friends anymore because of that, and because her something like her family didn't like. I don't know. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And still to this day, I even tried to reach out to this person on social media. Nothing.
Well, I wouldn't I can understand that. You're saying that actually.
I mean, I get it. I mean, if they, would be so offended as to, I get that. But again, I'm going to say this right now to this, if this individual is watching or listening, I
Mhm.
would like to, again, I know this was a many moons ago, but, take this time to apologize for the fuck up that I did. I fucked up. I did it. It was mine. That was mine. And I
And
own up
that's
to it.
very noble of you.
And if this person wants to say anything in the comment section or reach out to me on social media, you know where to find me. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to harp on anything. I'm not being begrudging or belittling. I'm using this opportunity to explain to the viewers and listeners what it was like for me as an individual
Exactly.
with a disability. Now this is kind of weird what I'm going to say next. When it came to dances and whatnot, you would think, okay, there's a plethora of students, to choose from, right?
Wrong.
Nope, I had to pick someone from the blind school. And the person that was picked, again, is going to remain nameless,
Mhm.
was Asian, of all things,
Oh.
blind, which, okay, I get that. And the age difference was not very appropriate.
Oh dear.
No, the age difference, here's, my thing. I get they wanted someone from the blind school, that I could relate to. I get that.
Mhm.
But here's how I would have handled it. Okay, maybe those two criterias, or if I wanted someone or if someone from the public school was to have been selected for that purpose, make it one of the fellow classmen. Make it someone that was age appropriate. That way, again, my thought being, if the relationship was going to be real instead of a work, yeah, they had a worked relationship for me. It wasn't a shoot; it was a work.
Mhm.
And you know what I'm referring to, right?
Unfortunately, I do not. Kyra doesn't always have the best sense of terminology.
Basically, a shoot. Man, what I mean by shoot is it was real. No, uh, predetermined variables. It was real. It was organic. It was the real deal. The
I
work
see.
part was, okay, we're going to set you up with so and so, and that's how it's going to be.
Okay, now I get it. It was the work part that was throwing me off.
Right. I was told to work the angle.
Oh, now I
That
get it.
she was my girl. I was using wrestling terminology on you.
See, that's Blind's biggest mistake there, ladies and gentlemen. Blind knows I don't follow wrestling. He does it to me every fucking time.
So basically, we went, as friends, which was cool, which was awesome. Unfortunately, me and this other person lost contact after the passing of serving the cats,
Mhm.
and then they had a falling out, so we all kind of just lost contact.
Mhm.
But from what I heard, just her life didn't end up the way she wanted it either. But that's that'll be a story for another time. Now you're probably wondering, what did I take away from this? Looking back in hindsight,
Mhm.
looking back on it, as a person who celebrated their 21 years of graduating yesterday. Congrats to the class of '02 for 21 years of being out, and congratulations to the class of 2023 for graduating, by the way.
Nice.
Yes, congrats to the 2023 graduates.
Yes,
So, what?
congrats, 2023 grads. And I believe I just celebrated my 11th graduation anniversary on a related note. Not to
Not
interrupt, by the way.
nice, nice. So basically, what I take away from it looking back is, you know, I get they had their reasons. I get that. I totally get it. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna be some obsessive compulsive person and be bitter about it. And I would again like to extend another invitation. If this person, the person that I was talking about earlier in the story, would love to come on this podcast and be a guest and tell their version of the story or whatever, I'm going to send it out right now. They can come on this podcast, and and I would love to have them as a guest. You know,
Yeah,
I would love it.
absolutely.
I would love it, and they know who they are. So if
Yeah,
they want to come out,
yeah,
they just got to reach out to me, and we'll set it up, and we'll get it figured out for you.
yeah,
So
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
uh, you know, looking back, again where I am now in life, I think it prepared me more than anything because again, with the work I do for my job and then what I do content creation wise, it prepared me because you got to watch what you say, watch what you do, and watch where you present it.
Exactly.
Because back then I was a lot more brash, a lot more immature, and I'll admit it. I was
And that was, sorry.
not the way, that was not going to fly. And I get that.
And that was me with my situation as well. If there's one thing I will say about my experience, I'm a lot more mature than I was back then.
Oh, yeah. I mean, oh, yeah. I mean, I've had a lot of life lessons and life experiences come my way between then and now, and it really that molded me and shaped me. But at the time, I didn't see it. See, at
Exactly.
the
Not
time,
need.
I was young. I'm going to be on. I wanted to get the girls, you know, and my mind was not where it needed to be. Unlike now, my mind and focus is where it needs to be.
Yeah. And that the same can be said about me with my personal hell as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Kyra, now that we've taken our listeners and viewers through our own personal hells, would you like to let them know what the plan is? Starting for when we start season 6. This is the final episode of season 5.
I would, but Kyra once again has the memory of the goldfish. What I can tell them is it's our summer vacation. This was our season finale.
Yep, we're gonna have a little break. We're gonna take a little summer vacation. We're gonna have some other content coming up for you over the summer. The Blindside Podcast will be back in the fall. And what I'm gonna do something a bit different. I'm gonna put a poll up on various social media platforms and on the listening platforms for this. And I'm going to let you, the listeners, decide. We're going to put this one in the hands of the listeners.
Okay.
So I was thinking, and choices of either I don't think we ever did a rage induce. We did our rage inducing video games, but we were talking about wanting to do video game accessibility. Remember?
Yes, I do remember. That is a big one that has been in the works for almost 2 years now. We're looking forward to that one.
Yes. We're gonna have that's gonna be on the poll, and then we're gonna, the other one I'm thinking maybe funny school stories.
Oh yes, and then of course, and then of course, you know what? It's movies. It's summer movie season. Maybe we should talk to them about one of our favorite childhood movies. For example, Kyra is getting ready to go see a reimagining of one of her childhood favorites that just came out this weekend.
And another thought for the next season: favorite childhood video games. Blind Middle Gamer.
Yes,
Blind
I
Middle
have
Gamer.
the perfect one for that
Blind
one.
Middle. Yep, me too. Blind Middle Gamer. In September is going to be playing a reimagining of a video game that he pre-ordered and he has played since his childhood. So, Kyra, stupid fucking allergies.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. That's just too fucking funny.
I know. Okay, Kyra, do you have any final thoughts before we sign off for the final time for this season?
Oh gosh, where do I even begin? Of course, we want to once again make tribute to our to our beloved fallen co-host. She will be missed very much. Second, I would love to explore more personal hells that are different from what we talked about today.
Yeah,
and thirdly,
we can do a part two. We can do a part two for sure. I got the perfect story for part two.
And thirdly, y'all, I just want to say happy graduation, happy summer, y'all, and enjoy your fucking summer because it's Memorial Day, bitches.
Okay, here's my final thoughts. Congratulations to the grads of 2023 across our state, and congrats to those, if you've graduated high school, college, whatever, congrats to you. And for those who didn't graduate this year, it's summertime, baby. Go enjoy it. Go have fun. And enjoy yourselves. Enjoy yourselves. Because it's summertime. It's time to kick it and do what we do best, and that's have a good time here. So with that being said, for Kaira Supersayan, I've been your host, Blind Metal Gamer, saying until next time, so long,
Salutations,
everyone.
Viewers.
Peace out.
Heck yeah.
Thank you for listening. This has been another episode of the Blindside Podcast. You can find the Blindside Podcast on a plethora of platforms, including Spotify, YouTube, Pocket Cast, Castbox, TuneIn Radio, and much more. Be sure to follow on Spotify so you will not miss a single episode.